And that could be probably one of the reasons why Navajo people like the chicken, is because it does taste a lot like prairie dog. Among our Diné, when we leave the reservation for a period of time, we always hunger for mutton. And that's, of course, what most of the Diné have been raised on in modern times. But we have to think about the days way back in the past. So what did our people eat as far as meat? A lot of the food in that was available was corn, squash, and beans. But they also had peaches and apricots and cherries. And those were available as well as food. But if they had to have meat, it was not something that they could keep for very long. If they were going to keep the meat, they would call it a skinny gish, which is a jerky. And they would dry the meat after they slice it up real thin, and then they would hang it up and make it so that it dries in the sunlight or in where there's a lot of air that can get to the meat and just dry it out. And that was the jerky in that. And jerky was made from so many different animals, even back in the time when they had buffalo available to them. A yun is what they called the buffalo. And then elk and moose, deer, and antelope. Those were some of the larger animals in that. And the other smaller animals, of course, is the rabbit, the cottontail, and the jackrabbit, and the porcupine. I don't think that our people really ate anything like turkeys or any bird type of creatures. It was considered that it was closely related to a snake or a serpent or a horned toad or some Gila monster or something, if they were in the bird family. And so they didn't eat that type of a creature. And it is that eating chicken is actually very recent among our people. And the foods in that were available in greater abundance was actually the prairie dog and rabbits. Those were always readily available. But there was also another one, the bighorn sheep. Bighorn sheep, there were hundreds of those herds all over the southwest. And the hunting were done in various seasons of the year. Even rabbits, there's seasons of the year when they're in a certain time in the summertime. They have a lot of fleas on them, and it's not very healthy to try to eat and butcher a rabbit that has a lot of fleas. And so if you did take a rabbit in the wrong season of the year, you'd have to singe that animal and burn all of the fur off, and then do it in a way that they prepare prairie dogs. Prairie dog is the same way. When you get a prairie dog and then you singe the fur after you've cleaned out actually before you clean it out, you singe all of the fur off of the animal on an open fire, and then you remove the insides, and you can put a stone, or even nowadays you can put a potato in there, or even an apple or a pear, and then you close it up with a piece of wire, and then you have a fire going, and then you put the prairie dog or the rabbit into that hole, and then you cover it with coals. Sometimes you can put a small fire on top of those coals and let that burn out, and then you just leave it for several hours, and it's cooked while it's in the ground. And the prairie dog, actually, if you were to compare it to some modern food, you would say it tastes like chicken. There's certain things ways to prepare food. You hear people making rabbit stew. Rabbit stew is not all that good. If you just fry it or roast it, that's the better way to prepare rabbit type meat. And so there's many different ways in that our people prepared food. And as far as what was used as meat, they couldn't store it, so most of the cases they would make it and prepare it as jerky. And those are the things that we are told.